everybody, it's Tanya here. Welcome to my wonderful room, aka my art studio. This is the back end. This
the front
is
end, the cat.
So today I want to do something a little different, and that is create a new watercolor palette filled with tons of colors that I'm going to use for the late spring and early summer of 2023. Cat's on the desk again. And the reason I started this is because there's something about spring, you want to get things organized and feel full of energy and creative juice, and you want to get going. And also I bought this new set of core paints, and there's 6 tubes, but they give you this huge case. And so I thought, why don't I put all my paints in there? And guess what? It fits a lot, like 45, 46, a lot. So this is going to be a longer video than usual. Now, because of that, I decided to make this in chapters. So you can check out below all of the different chapters. I've split it into colors, and then you can just go through if there's particular colors you want to see swatched out. I'm going to do a little bit of chatting about my favorite colors. I'm going to share a little bit of these antics. If you put your foot in there, then there's going to be all sorts of trouble. Yep, don't do it. Like, studio cats who know they're not allowed to be on the desk. Look, you gonna eat that? That's no, because toxic. Child. Anyway, there's gonna be lots of chatting and talking about the different colors, why I like them, the makeup of some of them, the way that they work for me and they might work for you. And also gives you a chance to see different colors that you might be thinking about buying and get an idea of what the colors and textures and the way that they interact with water is like. So that's what today is all about, and I hope you enjoy it. And if you do, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to comment if you have any questions about the work that I'm doing or paints or anything like that. And let's get to it, because this is a good long 45-minute video. Here we are on my cranky old wood desk, the great big hole, not hole, but seam through the middle. Did I tell you the story about this desk? Well, it turns out that it was quite a bit of a joke, actually. I'm going to take the camera off the tripod so you can see what I'm saying. Once upon a time, my mom, who lived in the prairies, was traveling around a bit, and she came across a farmstead, and they had a bunch of stuff for sale, and they had this beautiful oak desk. I mean, look at this gorgeous craftsmanship. It's solid tiger oak. It's absolutely amazing. And it had this hole. And she said to the guy, why is there a hole in the desk? And it was the son at the, I guess their father had passed, and he was selling off a bunch of the stuff that they no longer needed. And he had said that his dad was given a new computer. Now remember, this is back in like the 80s and 90s when they were really big and a huge monitor. And he said his dad didn't quite know how to navigate the thing, so he cut a hole in the desk to put the computer. So that's the urban myth behind my crazy desk. But it fits my little carousel thing too, which is great. So it's very well loved, and it's got lots of stains, lots of water stains, and there's some sort of crazy, I think this is from a meat grinder. I don't know why it would be hot that it burnt the table. It was before my time. But yeah, so that's kind of the story. But it's old and it's cracked through the center, but I don't want to give it up because I love working on the wood. And I also love not having to give a beep about spilling anything. And if you didn't see the video last week, that's precisely what I did when I spilled that water all over my painting with watercolor inks, which are not steadfast. So cha-cha. Anyhoodle, let's get. So I have this empty palette, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to, maybe I'll zoom in a bit. I have all these other empty palettes, and I'm going to tell you a bit about the paints as I go through and what I use and why I like them. They're not all what they say they are, but this is one of the ones I started out with. I highly recommend this. I have no affinity with them. I'm not sponsored, but I got to tell you, for a beginner palette, it is so great because you get this nice metal palette. It's not plastic. You get all these wells in it so you can mix your paints, and you get, this is not the paint that came with it. You can see those are the colors. But they're very pigmented for the cost. I mean, they're just excellent quality. So some of them are in there, some of them are in here. They're all over the place. But I do love them. And this is sort of the other original. which I've pulled some out of there already. But wait, there's more. There's yet another one. So Shimmering Lights does 5 different palettes, and I have 2 of them. This is the new upgraded version from the OG here, and they shifted the colors a bit, and I gotta be honest, I don't love them as much. They all have their own place, but different colors and different qualities to the paint. Anyhow, so those are some of the things that I use a lot, and that's what I'm going to start with. And so these are here, some of the pieces that I've pulled out already. You can see these are very, very well loved. And I'll put in there. I'm just going to pop them in here. Now, a lot of people are very finicky with their colors and the way things get shifted, and I'm just going to play. I'm not going to put them in with magnets or anything, which is, you know, if you want your stuff to stay, you want your paints to stay, then using magnets is great. So I did that on a couple of these guys. Of course, not the ones I pulled out, but really cheap magnets work. You can get the really thin ones at the dollar store. They work great. So anyhow, these colors I use quite a bit, and I'm just going to, you can see where they were mounted in the case there, so they've got a bit of schmudge. So I'm just going to put that to the end so I'm not dipping my paints into that. And then I'm just going to grab a couple more of those. Get that off there. Right, so this other case, so on here, I really do love this pearlescent white. It's really pretty. And again, this one and this one, similar, but for some reason, this newer one has a bit of a different opacity than the original. This one's much more sheer. So I like that. I like the silver. And then these are just like super orange. And this is really nice. It's like a golden green, but it comes out, as you can see even here, almost like an acid yellow. But then you can see the sheen when I put it in the light, you see? That's why I like them. So of these ones, which do I use? I think I use this often, but I use it like a yellow. That one as well. This is the one unfortunate thing about the Shimmering Light palettes, which I experienced in both of them. This particular color is totally useless. Just crumbles, and even when I saturate that with water, it just doesn't break down. So something's screwy in the binder there. So that's unfortunate. But the rest of them are pretty good. All right, well, my battery is low, so I'm going to go charge that up. And when I come back, I'll have everything out and we can plunk them in the case and then do swatching. Yay! Well, here we are. Here it is on day 2. You can see I've had animal crackers. I've had a little bit of a shift in my color palette. I think this is working pretty well though. And I'm now going to add the reds. Put the cookie away. And then what I'm going to do is swatch up some colors. This is that Pretty Pink by Prima Marketing. I like this color a lot. I'm going to have to add some, that's Opera Pink, which I love. I'm going to have to add something to bulk this in so they don't do this, because I don't have any magnets on there. So there we go. Ta-da! Let's zoom in, because I love how that looks. Makes me feel so professional and stuff. Anyway, let's swatch. The whiniest cat in the world, right? There you go, right on cue. Okay, so what I did was I took the insert that came with the palette, and I just traced it on a piece of paper and cut it out instead of trying to get it all perfect, because for me it's never about perfection. I just want to make sure I've got a guide. And then what I did was I just did a grid. I literally just did this. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put like dots or squares or something, and then I'm going to erase the pencil lines after. But this is just a guide. And so this is just a cheapy piece of paper. I use all different kinds of papers and different kinds of pads, so it's just an indicator for the color. And yeah, so now what I'm going to do is give this a spritz just to activate all the paint. I'm just going to do that off camera so I don't spray my table because goodness knows. Look, it's shiny. Ooh. All the paints all the time. It's like a box of candy. I love it. I love it. I mean, come on. Look at these. Look at these colors. Doesn't that just make you want to sit down and create? Woohoo! So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create some swatchy swatch. And we shall, let's do a zoom in. Maybe I'll just put the paints that I'm doing next to the swatches so you can actually see what's happening. And get some water. And sitting down is good. And let's swatch. So these first two are basically the same paint, which is the Prima Marketing. And it is a semi-opaque pearlized white, and they're a little bit different. They're the same set, but I bought one set probably 2.5 years after the second one. So you're not going to see much here, but you can see there is definitely a bit of a color difference between the two of them, ever so slightly, but really I just use this for glazing and doing effects, like on this painting here. Now this is covered in plastic, so you won't see it as much, but you see where it is got that kind of glowy effect. So I do that with these colors quite often. So I find that they come in quite handy for me. In this whole row that I'm about to do, this whole row is all Prima Marketing. And I just really like the fact that you get an entire set of colors. I'm just going to show it again with a nice little metal palette that has great wells in it. So you have, if you want to go traveling, this is perfect. This is my original, as you can tell, and where I've pulled the paints out. But it's a nice little palette, and I gotta say, for the cost, you get some really nicely pigmented colors. It's a very good deal. So I highly suggest that over any of the other beginner stuff. You know, buy one of those. It's a much better idea. Okay, here we are. Now the one thing about Prima though that I don't like is they do not put names, they put numbers, and the numbers are very difficult to see. Okay, I'm back. Unfortunately, I ran out of space on my phone, so here we are back. Now I'll go into the next colors. Okay, now here we are. This is probably my favorite and most used color in every single one of my palettes, hence the black hole. And I am sad that it's almost done because I'll tell you, I can't get this color anymore. This is the new gold that they replaced it with. My camera would like to focus on it, and it's just not the same. So this is the original gold that came with Prima Marketing, and I love it. It's really bright. It looks like actual gold because it's golden yellow, but not too yellow and not too orange. It's just perfect, and it has the most incredible shimmer. And the other thing I really love about this particular pigment, it likes to push other pigments around. It's a bully. It's a pigment bully. But it's fun when you're doing it for effect because it actually creates some really neat effects when you're working with other colors, especially teals and greens, and you put that gold on it and just whoosh, everything moves. So it's a lot of fun. And then this one here is the new gold. Now again, I haven't purchased this palette in a year, so I'm not really sure if it's still the same color, or you know, it could be one of those batch things, right, where different batches create ever so slightly different color. But you can see the difference in the two of them. Yeah, this one's much deeper and this one's just kind of light, but both of them are very good for being shimmery, which is why it's called the Shimmering Lights palette, I suppose. Anywho, peach gold. Now this one's a very russet kind of gold. See, it's a little bit more like a burnt ochre color. I find that this one is a nice color, but it doesn't particularly have much shimmer. Even if you put it down really heavy, just put some more pigment up in here. All right, the next one is a beautiful greenish gold. I really like this one. This is in the new palette. Again, this is Shimmering Lights by Prima Marketing. You can find it everywhere. And this one's like almost like a sap green. It's got very green undertones to it. Really like that color a lot. Okay, next one is super peachy. Peachy, peachy. Even with a grid, I still can't keep in the lines. Can't do it. You know, there's so many people that do swatch videos and they're so precise and have these beautiful backgrounds and everything's all laid out, and yeah, aspirations, I suppose, but quite frankly, I also like that I'm kind of not like that. I'm just kind of me. So there you go. And then another yellow gold, which I find very lemony, super lemony. This is a brush I haven't used in forever. Really nice brush if you're doing detail work. And it's vegan. Now, I'm not vegan, but I am definitely against animal cruelty in all aspects, especially when it comes to killing animals just for their fur, feathers, skins. That just doesn't sit with me. But, you know, especially when you can make a brush that is synthetic, that is just as nice. And this one is. I really like it. Ooh, color shift. Okay. That looks lovely. Now we're going to go to the next line. And this is where I'm going from the browns into the orange and the yellows and the gold. So I'm going to start with brown. This is a brown that came with the Prima Marketing Tropicals selection, which was this one. So that's this brown. I don't know the number, sorry about that, but if you buy the palette, there's only the one brown, so easy to find. And again, I don't use brown often, but when I do, this is a really nice one. It's very red undertones, and like all the Prima colors, super saturated, and it does generally give you a really nice effect with the water. You can get some really nice values out of it, meaning your lights and your darks can be quite drastically different, even though it's the same paint, which is kind of a neat thing. Just trying to take out some extra water so I have a visual for myself. Okay, and the next one, again, Prima Marketing. And this one is an ochre. And just like I was saying, up in these colors here, let's make sure I'm on camera here, these colors, this is an actual ochre yellow brown color. And this is a really nice color for people that like to do anything with landscapes or skin tones, because it lends itself just to so many scenarios when you're using colors. It's just a really nice color. Okay. Next is my Core Gold. So Core is Q-O-R. Look at the pigment on those things. Holy. Don't need much of that, that's for sure. Got it all over my fingers. Oh, yeah. Holy pigment. Wow. I have a feeling that one tube of Core paint is going to last you a lifetime, because that is the tiniest amount on my brush, and look at the amount of color that's going down on there. That's crazy. Woo! That's a beautiful color. Wow. It's very ochre. It's like ochre and yellow and orange all connected together. Wish I had a tilt so that these were all kind of going the same way. Wow, that's surprising me with how much. Look at the yellow undertones in that. Look at that. Juicy, juicy. What a gorgeous color that is. I'm going to take some of that pigment off. Oh, that's nice. I haven't painted with that yet, so looking forward to that new one. So you can never tell what they are in the pans compared to what they paint as. And this next one is also a Core paint. I got way too much pigment on my brush. And I'm actually going to pull out my swatch book that I did with the core paint so you can see. So they're called high chroma and they're very well named. So that first one was the Quin Gold, and now I'm doing Pyrrole Orange. And again, super saturated. So you can see what it's like dry versus going wet. It's got a lot of red undertones in it, like a magenta cast to it. Wow, yeah. Wow, wow, wow. Like the tiniest dab will do ya on these ones, that is for sure. Oh, I bluebird. It's called the Imperfect Palette Swatch. That's what this is. The next one is the Daniel Smith Gold. And this one is the one that I added yesterday. You can see right there. And I use this one quite a bit, actually. I use it on its own, but I also like mixing with this color. Also highly pigmented, but it's different. It's unlike these guys, which I think are going to dry super vibrant. This one doesn't, and I kind of like that because it gives you a bit more range in the colors that you're playing with. It's also very nice for glazing, which is going over other layers of color. That's such a pretty color. My table is definitely slanting to the right. I just cannot seem to get that extra liquid off. Here we go. My poor old Escoda brush. All the hairs are sticking up. There we go. That's nice. I like how that looks. This next one I think is a Prima Marketing color again. Another gold, because you can't have enough yellows and golds, right, kids? You gotta have them all. No, honestly, it's because I bought a bunch of sets and they all came with yellow. Sometimes you don't need a billion yellows, but it is nice to have them. Now, do you see the difference? How that did not run into the water like the high chroma colors did? How they were very, they call it hydrophobic is afraid of, hydrophilic. They hold the water, pull the water, whereas this one, not so much. So it'll give you a very different effect, which means you get a lot of transparency with that. And it's also very sheer. So that's quite nice. I'm also going to lift off some color on there, just so I have a variance to see, you know, compared to something like that, which is super bright. And not very shimmery, I've got to say. That's for the Shimmering Lights palette. But look at how lemon yellow that is, like acidy yellow. And not so shimmery. Okay, next is that beautiful Daniel Smith yellow that has that blue undertone. Okay, so I looked up the names because I'd forgotten. So that's Hansa Yellow by Daniel Smith. That's New Gamboge by Daniel Smith. Both of them come in the beginner sets. I have one here, this watercolor essential set. It's pretty good to get started, although I have to find, I don't use a lot of these, like the quinacridone rose and the pyrrole scarlet. Again, you have a warm tone and a cool tone red. I rarely use this one. I don't think it's even in my kit here today. But back to the Hansa Yellow. This is a really nice color if you're doing cool toned work. And it's also a really nice contrast with cool blues. Makes some nice greens too, this one. Okay. So quite a difference in tone here. Just gonna take off some water. You can see how incredibly sheer that is. Right? So you see that they all have their own range of color and undertones, and they all have their own color shift, especially these metallic guys. But different applications, right? So this one's very sheer and cool. Okay, now the next one It's this green gold color by Core. And I only know that because it's in the new pan. So I'm going to try and take a very little amount, considering how much pigment these guys have. That'll probably be too little, but we'll see. Oh no, I got too much. Okay. Beautiful color. Oh, that's really pretty. Oops, I used the wrong brush. This was my water brush. Wow, that's got a really acid yellow undertone. I didn't realize that until just now, and having it next to these other colors. That's really... I hope this shows through. I'm shooting this in high resolution videos. You can see the texture and everything, but hopefully it's going to show that almost lemon yellow undertone there. Beautiful color. Pretty, pretty color. Maybe try not to paint when the painting's up in the air. Oops. Well, what you gonna do? And this is a Prima Marketing color. This is one of my favorites. It's like a pea green, mid-century modern kind of color. Really love this one. Has also a yellow undertone. Really, this one I use a lot. These two are very, very similar. Now, because this is not as high of a quality pigment, it's not going to be as vibrant. It's not going to have as much color, but I actually like it that way too sometimes. And I also like how it reacts with the water. So do you see the difference between like the medium grade and the super premium grade? See the difference in the saturation there? Beautiful. All right. Into the greens, into the greens. One of my favorite colors of all time, Daniel Smith, sap green. I love this color. It's like being in the forest in the spring when the light is shining through the leaves and you get that beautiful moment of spring and happiness, and it just feels so delightful. I really enjoyed this color a lot. It's so pretty with pinks and blues, this green. Gorgeous color. Really heavy yellow undertone so that you can use it in your warm colors. Beautiful. Look at that. It's almost like a neon green. And then you can layer it with more pigment. I'm just going to put a bit more on the end here. And it layers really beautifully also. The next one is new to me. This is Jackson Art, their in-house watercolor brand. This is Hooker's Green, which is generally, almost everyone makes it. It's a very common color. It's usually like a emerald green, or like emerald and Kelly mixed together. So kind of like your standard, see it in all the Irish stereotypes, that kind of green. Very vibrant. Oh, it's got some interesting transparency stuff going on. Interesting. Let's see what this does with some water. These are tiny little swatches. It's hard to know what this is going to do. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I'm not loving this. Gotta be honest. Not loving it. Wow, there's like very static interaction with the water. Do you see how that pigment is just sort of sitting there? It's not moving. It's not shifting around. It's just kind of there. So that's interesting. I probably won't use this much. I'm not really super happy with this. I thought it was going to be a bit more pigment, but we'll see how it dries, right? They're always different once they dry. The next two are Prima Marketing, and this is like a blue, green, teal, and this is like a forest green. So this is, again, another one of my favorites. I just love this color. I don't know what it is about teal. I just like it, the vibration of it. It always just makes me feel happy. And I don't know, I'm not an ocean person, but it really does have that tropical ocean vibe feeling, doesn't it? Pretty color. And these Primas, look at that. See how much she loves the water. Let's put a little drop of water on there. If I can get it off my brush. See? Nice. Just gonna mess with it ever so slightly. There. Back when I started doing watercolor, I really loved playing with the effect of a semi-wet pigment and lots of water, and it would, you know, to see which pigments are going to push around, which ones are going to retract, which ones expand in. And I really love the effects that you can get. That they call it the cauliflower effect, and I really enjoy that. So you can sort of see that up in here. So people that like to do a lot of flat wash hate that effect, and that's why I think a lot of people that do illustrations like to use gouache, because it tends to not do that. It tends to be very flat and really good for that, you know, like a solid field of color, which I almost never do. Almost all of my work incorporates that effect because I really love the flow and the interaction of the color in the water, because I'm of course painting energy, and the energy is in the movement and the way the colors go, and of course the unpredictability and the interaction of the colors. And so I love that, and that's, for me, makes me happy when I see this sort of thing. When I see that, not so much. This is like really disappointing. All right, let's move on to the next one, which is a forest green by Prima Marketing. Very, very similar to the one I just put down, except this one's a little bit more blue in it. So it's a little more, you know, the kind of color you think you would see if you were in the Amazon, in the depth of the forest with the beautiful shadows and where the light is hitting the plants, and you get these gorgeous colors. Or being in a pine forest and having these gorgeous colors. Look at that. Love. So they're very, very similar, and yet not. I'm hoping that's going to show a little bit. Yeah. Nice. Do love those colors. All right, the next one is Daniel Smith Cascade Green. This is one of the few granulating colors that I have in my palette, and granulating and also color shift. So it's a mixture of blue and green pigment, and when it interacts with water, it pushes the pigments around and they dry differently, and so the colors will split and you get this incredible shift of blue and green, and you cannot control the effect, which is lovely. Now I hope it's going to show because it's a tiny little spot. Sometimes it doesn't really work if you have a very small swatch like this, but it is a really pretty color on its own, and then when it dries you will see the two different colors showing up, so that's quite a fun one. The next one is the I think it's just called cobalt blue, yeah, cobalt teal, and this is the core again. I'm gonna try and take just a little bit. I know from playing with this one already that it is quite saturated, and oh yeah, oh my gosh, I had hardly anything on my brush, and look at that color is gorgeous. This is more like your traditional printing press, which uses CMYK, which is cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, and with those four colors you can create all color, which is how all things are printed. If you didn't know this, take a look with a magnifying glass at a magazine up close, and you'll see it's made out of thousands of little dots, and those dots are the CMYK, and that is what creates all the colors. And the cyan is like this, very saturated tealy blue color, like that. Very soft. I'm just going to add a little bit more in the corner. Interesting. This is actually doing like a granulated effect, which I didn't see when I played with it last time. And so granulation, like the name sounds, it is separating the pigment, so it almost looks like it's sand. and it gives it kind of a texture. So do you see how the blue and the brown are separating here already? Always very interesting. The other thing that's really fun with this Cascade Green is you can go in when it's at this state right now, so you can see it's a little bit wet, but starting to dry. You can pop some water on and it'll push the pigments around even more. So that's always fun to play with as well. Just gonna add a little bit more blue on there. La 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 la. Okay. I think the next one is cerulean blue and it's Schmincke. Schmincke! That name always makes me laugh. Schmincke. But they make good pigments, I'll tell you. I really love their paints. I don't have a lot of them. They're very expensive, but they're worth the money because the color is incredible. Look at that color. That is gorgeous. Beautiful blue. Who remembers the scene in The Devil Wears Prada where she talks about the fact that it's not just any blue, it's cerulean blue. That's what this guy is. Beautiful color. Love this color. Okay, I'm going to say that about every single paint, but you know, it's kind of true. I wish you could see this in real life. The colors are much more saturated than what you're going to get on camera, but it's pretty close. Look at that. Every 2 seconds that is shifting. You never know what it's going to do. It's fun. The next one is ultramarine blue, and I'm pretty sure that's a Daniel Smith. Look at the pigment before I've even picked it up. You see how saturated that is? Just stunning. There's a lot of red. It's got a very purpley cast to it, so it's a very red blue. And when I say red, it means that there's a lot of red in the mix, creating it. And so you get that tone. Your eye will see blue, but it also will pick up the red. And just like all things, colors are vibration, and so they are vibrating at a particular rate, and your eye will be picking that up in different ways, and that is how we see these different colors, that they're vibrating at a different speed. And so that is why some people will like some colors and not like others. It's you're just connected to that particular vibration and it makes you feel comfortable, and some don't. Some people can look at blue and be like, I hate it, I love orange, and the exact opposite is true. A little bit of color theory there for you. Right, I will never get the pigment off. Phthalo blue. All the phthalos are insanely saturated. It doesn't matter who you buy it from. It's going to be a strong color. Also, one of the most staining, which you can't see right now, but maybe I'll just scan up that there. The tiniest little bit of phthalo blue got on there, and it's never coming off. So beware when you're painting with it, but boy, it makes beautiful color. Also very vibrant, super brash, very intense color. One that you can add a lot of water to and you're still going to get a beautiful tone from it. Pretty color. Now keep in mind, I am putting hardly any pigment on my brush when I'm doing these because they're very small. So your results may vary, but you know, just to get an idea of what these colors are like. That's just beautiful. Love it. Look at that. 3 of 5 rows done already. And the next one is Delft Blue by Schmincke. Schmincke. Oops, I don't have anything to hold these in place. I'm going to have to put some sort of thing on that. I love this color because there's something about this particular one. I always find it very easy on the eyes, very relaxing, very calming. It's also very denim-like and almost indigo-like. There we go. I just find this color just gorgeous. I love this blue. There we go. Now I took it off too much. Isn't that always the way? Boop, 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 boop. The other thing I really like about these Schmincke paints is the ones that I've had the experience with so far. Their opacity is incredible. So all paints have a different rating on their opacity, and which helps you if you want to be doing layering or if you want to do flat washes. And I find that their paints are just fantastic. So you can see that kind of feathering effect it's giving with the water. And I'm going to see if I can just pull a bit of that out because it's going to all move to the side as soon as I put the paper back down. There, on camera is better, hey? Beautiful. Almost like a navy blue. And the next guy is Prussian blue. This is a Daniel Smith color. This is one that comes again in their, no, it doesn't come in the beginner set, but it is a really nice one. Everybody that does watercolor has a Prussian blue, and everybody has their own brand favorite. I haven't used a lot of other brands of Prussian blue, but I do enjoy this one. And I find this one is quite nice for a sheer wash if you're doing a water scene. If you haven't seen my fine art work that I do, in addition to the channeled art that I do, which is abstracts, because I don't plan those, I do some fine art as well, which are more planned. And I did a series with emotional landscapes, and I did one called Tropical Oceanscape, and this color was one of the primary colors, and I just love it because it does really have that feeling of being in the water. And it has a nice nice affinity. You see how it likes to crawl into the water compared to some of the other ones which pull away? This is still bugging me. This is such disappointment. I had such high hopes for this. Anyhow, let it go. Moving on. Next up are these two colors. I got these in a Daniel Smith set. It's called Wisteria and Lavender. Oh, on camera. There you go. Wisteria and Lavender. And when I got this set, I thought, I am never going to use these. Ever. I hate these colors. Well, wouldn't you know that like, almost all the paintings that I do ends up using this color. I don't know what it is about those galactic guys that I'm channeling, the spirit that I'm channeling. They really just like these colors, this pinky, purpley color. Anywho, they're okay. They're not my favorite. They're very sheer, and this one just always reminds me of watercolors of rhododendrons for some reason, but it is actually a really pretty color when you're doing things in that tonal range, and it can be quite beautiful in an abstract. Same to be said with the lavender. Both of them are quite sheer. Their transparency is quite high, so they do layer over other things quite well. This one is a little bit muddy, I have to say, but also a very, very hard color to try and do mixing on your own, just because it's got a fair amount of white in it. You know, it's like taking a pink and adding white. Very sheer. See? Okay. Now we're going to go into the purples. I think the first one up is the Moon Glow. And Moon Glow by Daniel Smith is a very well-known color. I think it's one of their best sellers because it's a purple magenta mixture. Sometimes a little bit of blue comes in, and it makes the most beautiful granulating separation colors. It's just stunning. So I'm just gonna do that and then leave it alone and see if it separates and gives me some color. The next one up is Schmincke, and this is called Brilliant Blue Violet, and boy oh boy is it ever. It's a gorgeous color. It goes on really nice as a flat, not transparent, but flat opaque color, but also it's quite happy to get a little bit diluted in the water, and it creates just the prettiest shades of purple. So you get quite a variety of color from the one. Pretty. The next one is the New Core Dioxazine Purple. This one's crazy pigment. I feel like this is going to be enough paint forever. I'll never have to buy a Dioxazine Purple again, ever. Oh my gosh, so much pigment. Hey, it's me, I'm back on camera. Well, I can't paint that again, but hopefully you could see a little bit of what I was doing. Sorry about that. It's hard, I've got the camera up in the air, so sometimes I can't see what I'm doing. But I got distracted by how pretty these colors are, and then I forgot to check. Oops. All right, there we go. Ooh, yes, loves the water. It's a very flat, opaque color. Very, very flat. That is something that I noticed right off the bat, so yeah, it kind of just wants to do its thing. So this is what it looks like when you have a larger swatch of it. And it does give some nice interaction with the water, but it is also pulling away from the water, as you can see, as opposed to something like this, which is mixing into the water. You can see the color dispersion, whereas this is not. And so you have more blocks of tone and color, which can be used to your advantage. You know, it all depends on what it is that you wish to do. The next one is my Prima Marketing. I think just a plain, like a plummy color. Yeah, this is from the Prima Marketing palette called Tropicals, and very nice paint set. Yep. It could just be the purples in general, based on whatever they're pulling the pigments from. Just don't like the water that much. So you see this is doing that same sort of thing, right? It's pulling back from the water. So you get a bit of a separation like that. Meanwhile, look at that core feathering out like little snowflakes in there. I'm going to just do this and whoop. Just so we get a bit of color difference. Okay, and then this one, Talens, and I have forgotten the name of the purple. I'm so sorry. It doesn't have it, it just has a number. So we'll try that. This is like the Hooker Green, brand new. I just bought them as singles just to see how they were. I really wanted to get a lavender to replace this, and I got that. Just much darker. But, you know, sometimes things are on sale and you're like, oh, it looks like a candy, I'm going to buy it. So you see, it's a lighter purple than what it is in the pan, of course. Not anywhere near as light as this, but it's more grape colored, isn't it? Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Not my favorite, but we'll see. Who knows what comes up in the future. Often the things that I say not great, I end up using more than anything else. So random. All right, now we're into pinks. This is Prima Marketing from their new Shimmering Lights palette. This is generally pretty sheer, and I rarely use it, but it's kind of fun. It's kind of a strawberry color, but it's a little dark. It's a little murky, which is why I don't use it often, but it is nice for a glazing color when you want to go over something. And it does dilute down into sort of a cherry pink, but it is a little muddy. It's not a true, bright, vibrant pink. But it's okay. It's not bad. This is my favorite pink of all time. It's everyone's favorite pink of all time. It's Opera Pink. This particular one by Daniel Smith. One of the best colors of all time. It is so beautiful, this color. It's really blue undertones, very cherry pink, happy color. Looks gorgeous with primaries, looks gorgeous with secondaries. It's just such a beautiful color, and it's just a lovely color to work with. I love it. It's in a lot of my pieces. I really love this on top of other colors, and I like it underneath as well. So for instance, I'll pull that other painting back out. So this painting here, that's that Opera Pink underneath, and then there it is again, and you can see the difference, yeah, when it's over top versus underneath, and mixed in with other things. It has such a variety of uses. I really love it. I find it incredibly versatile and very pigmented, which I love, because, you know, unlike people that do very light watercolors that are very pastel with lots of layers, I love to use saturated color, hence my palette full of saturated tones, and that makes me happy, and I love those colors. The next three are all from the Prima Marketing. Again, they're just numbers, so I can't actually tell you the name, but except that they're from the Tropicals palette. And I use these quite often. Now, I don't use a ton of reds in my color work. I don't use a ton of pinks. Mostly I end up using opera pink, but I gotta say some of these are just incredible colors. Like this one here is it's like a quinacridone rose, which is probably what it is, but they don't call it that. They just call it a number. But it does have a nice tonal variety, and these Prima paints, I don't know what binders these guys use, but I find almost all of their paints really love the water, and they tend to move around a lot, which I like. So if you're looking for something to do flat color, I wouldn't recommend the Prima Marketing, just because they tend to like to move around, you see? And of course, I'm moving the paper and there's lots of water. All paints will move around, but it's the spread is what I'm talking about, the natural spread and inclination to shift into the water or not. So this is a Prima Marketing Tropicals kind of orangey color. And again, I don't use a lot of orange, but it's like an orangey red color. So you can see, hopefully, kind of the difference between that versus that. I just can't get over the saturation on these. Those are amazing. Those core paints, wow. That's the core high chroma set of 6. Beautiful. And this next one, again, Prima Marketing. It's a very ruby red kind of color in the pan, and it is on the page as well. Ruby, but yet vibrant and not muddy, which I really like, because I gotta say, some of my really expensive paints, even though, you know, they're all fancy and stuff, yeah, but I do find them a little muddy, some of them, especially when you get into this type of ruby red. Look at that. Beautiful color. I love how these are drying around. There's that separation of the blue, purple, and the magenta in the moon glow. Gorgeous, hey? And there's that cascade green. You can see the green and the blue. Pretty colors. Okay, the next one is a pie roll red. And this is a Daniel Smith color. I'm pretty sure this came, yeah, pie roll scarlet comes with their watercolor essential set. It's a good beginner color. It's your basic primary color. I find this quite muddy. I can see that it's got quite a bit of a, you know, brown cast to it. So I'm not a super big fan of this one. But if you were doing anything with skin tones, this is a great color to have because it will mix up beautiful tones, and the light fastness on these is amazing. Again, doesn't have a lot of spread. It likes to just be static there. This last red is a quinacridone rose, and I believe is the Daniel Smith color. Oh, yeah, it's from the same set. Ta-cha. There you go. And so this is they're both kind of cool red. I know one's supposed to be a warm red and one's supposed to be cool, but this one doesn't, they both feel kind of cool. This is supposed to be their warm red. That's the cool, but I don't really feel it. But that's just me. Very rosy, pinky pink. So let's do a little comparison, shall we, between the Pro set. I'm just trying to get some more pigment on here, and I gotta tell you, it's just not doing it for me. Add a little water to that. Boop. And I just let that be. I put way too much water to lift that. So hopefully you can see the difference. They're very similar, yeah? So this is the Prima Marketing and this is Daniel Smith. Double the cost. Can you spot the difference? This one has a little bit more blue. I can see blue coming out in it. I'm going to try and lift this gently so I don't lose that. watery effect, but there we go. Do you see the difference, or does it feel the same to you? Hard to say, yeah? Very similar colors. Okay, and then the last two are the darkest ones, and this is a wonderful color. I almost never use black. This is actually not black. That's Mars Black. This one is Paynes Gray. That's P-A-Y-N-E, not Bring the Pain. Bring the pain. I can't stand it. I'm a suffering artist. Oh, nah. Anyway, the Paynes Gray is lovely because it has these blue-gray undertones, and it makes the most beautiful, luscious shadows, and it mixes really well with other colors. If you want to have a shadow with an orange cast, like if you are playing with your colors and your complementary colors like blue and orange, and you have a blue sky and you want to create some shadows, let's say there's a blue sky, there's a tree, and there's a shadow by the tree. If you use the orange with your Paynes Gray, then you're going to get a bit of that complementary color, and it'll make that blue pop, pop, poppity, pop, pop, because they're complementary, and so they have that effect of each other. And the Paynes Gray is really quite pretty. I put so much pigment on there, oh my gosh. I love this color. I don't play with it very often. I don't use a lot of grays because I'm doing a lot of abstract, and my colors tend to be very vibrant, but you can see the gray blue color, yeah? So pretty, love it. And then last is Mars Black, and this is by Schmincke, and I bought it specifically because I'd seen somebody do a video about how it was super granulating, and they mixed it with all these other colors, and the colors would split, and they were phenomenal. And I gotta tell you, it didn't work for me. I tried it and it just didn't work. So I don't know if they had a lot that, you know, allowed that, but I really didn't get that feeling. But the other thing that it does do that other blacks don't is it's a very sheer black. So it's got that warm tone to it, but you can also do it with glazing, and it's quite a nice color. It is highly granulating. You can see that already starting here. See how it's separating right up in here. So if you love that granulated texture color, then it's beautiful. I mean, even alone as a little swatch, that's just pretty, isn't it? The way that the color moves. I love it. So there you go. And that, my friends, is my ever so fabulous and almost professional swatching of my new palette for spring. And I'm so excited to play with these colors all in one, instead of having 16 different palettes and, you know, boxes of paint everywhere. So that's fun. I can't wait to do that and then play with that some more. So thank you so much for joining me. If you enjoyed this and this different little diversion from what I normally do, let me know. I would love to hear from you guys. And I hope you enjoyed this little playtime with me and my colors and my commentary. And if you have any comments or questions or want to know what any of the paints are, let me know. I'm not going to list every one of them in the description, but I will put the sets so that if you're interested, you can find them. All right, you guys. Oh, I better do one last final thing, which is show you the shimmering paints when the light hits them. So you can see. Beautiful. I highly recommend if you're looking for a beginner set, if you're just starting out, or even if you're a professional and you're looking for something a little interesting, pick up one of the Prima Marketing sets. They're just fantastic. The colors are so great. And the ones I was using today was the Tropicals and the Shimmering Lights. And those are such a great investment. All right. Thanks so much, you guys. I will catch you next time. And thanks for watching. Bye.